realize that even high schoolers sometimes need, so please go to the next page in your notes. Don't just open up randomly. Oh, it's not even the 20. Write the date. Maybe it'll help you know, like when you go to dig back through your notes, if they're organized, you'll use them better. So instead of solving by graphing, we're going to learn two ways today: substitution or elimination. And from what I understand, this is taught in 8th and 9th grade, so it should be a review for everybody. That's why I feel comfortable trying to do it in one lesson. Also, all the examples I do today are from the homework sheet. So once you get your homework paper, just write in the 2 ordered pairs that we've solved for and do the rest for homework. Okay, this is number 1 from your homework. So it looks like yesterday, right? Like you would graph this one, you would put this one in slope interform, and you would graph it, but we're teaching you a different way, and some of you are going to like it better. So this is substitution, but I'm going to go over the steps. In order to solve using substitution, the first thing you need to do is make sure that a variable is isolated. Now, it's important to mention this could be x that you isolate or y. Most of the time when you get to this stage of math, you've done slope-intercept forms so many times that you feel like you have to isolate the x or the y. You don't. It could be the x or the y. So as I'm looking at this system of equations, I can see that step number 1 is already done because the y is isolated. So check. You did step number 1 is done for you sometimes. Well, then let's move on to step number 2. We are going to substitute. What does that word even mean? Because you guys knew what a substitute was in kindergarten, I think. So what do you think of when I say a substitute? A placeholder. I was at my daughter's wedding on Friday. We had a lady come in and held my place. Well, I was out. She substituted in place of me. And we did the same role. We were both teachers. So we're going to substitute the expression into the other equation. Once you write that down, I'll show you which expression I'm talking about. What expression? Okay, so what expression is this talking about? This expression is the one that we created, or maybe it was already there, by isolating a variable. So this is an expression. Maybe underline both those so you can match them up. We are going to substitute this expression into the other equation. And since it says y equals all that stuff, we're going to put it in place of that y. So we start writing 2x plus 3. And then instead of the y, we substitute in 5x minus 10. And we can do this because it is a system of equations. If you were to graph it, it's the same thing as putting them on the same graph. It's not 2 separate graphs. Carter, what do you think we should do now? Yes. So there's lots of different things depending on the problem, but all of them are called solve. We need to solve here for x. So I don't want to put all the things because it might be different, but sometimes you have to distribute. like Carter said, sometimes you'll have to combine like terms. Sometimes you'll have to use inverse operations. So try to solve this. I think you have the skills necessary to get the x all by itself. Let's figure out what its value is. But Carter was right. Start by distributing the 3. Combine your x terms together. At the 30. I'm try to catch up with you guys. So I don't know how far you got, so check and see where you got to. Make sure that you were doing the correct things to solve for x. Is it the answer? Are we done? Well, yeah, because we didn't know the ordered pair where they're crossing, and that's just the x part. So once you have done that, you're going to take your answer from step 3. Which is x equals 2 for this one, and plug it into your isolated equation. Plug it into the isolated equation. In all actuality, you can plug it into either equation. But the isolated one is going to be way easier to solve. So that is my suggestion. Take the answer from step 3. We got x equals 2. And we're substituting again. We're going to substitute it into the isolated equation and solve. And that will be your answer. So here's what I mean by that. I'm taking this, x equals 2. I'm going to plug it into my isolated equation. That's the end of it. Do you guys remember doing this? Raise your hand if you have no recollection of this. Okay. You slept through that lesson probably. Okay, I want to make sure you guys have those steps written down, and then I'm going to do one more from the homework, except this time we will have to isolate the variable. It won't be done for us already. On your homework, there's 3 with isolated variables and 3 without. I had a student last class period doing his English this whole time. And so I gave him his worksheet, and he's like, I don't know how to do this. So write down the steps. I don't mind helping if you've done your part. Okay. Same steps, same 4 steps, a slightly different problem. This is number 7 from your worksheet. So when you get your worksheet, just write this answer right into it. Oh, he also didn't have any of these examples done, so you had to do more problems than everybody else. Actually, let's see if it'll let me. Nope. It's going to need the second equation. I'm going to write that second equation over here. So you don't have to write it again. I just like it when they're next to each other instead of stacked. All right, step number 1, Carlos, is isolate a variable. So you tell me which one looks the easiest to get by itself. X, Y, X, or Y. Which one's almost by itself already? Yes. Please don't don't put it in slope intercept form, or you're going to have y equals -1 6x minus 2, and then you're going to have to plug that over here. You're going to have fractions. We don't want fractions. We're trying to avoid that. These problems are set up specifically so there's one variable that's pretty easy to get by itself. So we do have to do step 1. We have to isolate the variable. But do yourself a favor and pick an easy one. I had a girl in Math 1, we were doing this same thing, because that's where you learn it. And she solved all of them for y, and she was so confused. Can you imagine substituting it in with fractions? So, anyhow. All right, Davis, what's step number 2?
Substitute expression into other equation.
I'm going to put it in for x because it's the x. So instead of x, I'll put this whole expression. -12 minus 6y plus 7y equals -14. So step number 2, substitute expression into the other equation and then solve. So I'll give you guys a minute or so to do the distributing, combine like terms, inverse operations. -24y and plus 7y. If you want to continue on and take answer from step number 3 and plug it into the isolated equation, if you want to finish it, you can. Also, if you notice that your neighbor's pencil has stopped moving, check and see if they have the same y as you do. Isolate the y. So if your neighbor's pencil has stopped moving, please check and make sure you guys have the same y. Ask your neighbor. Do you have the same y as Casey? Ask your neighbor, do you have the same y? Check with your neighbor. If they got stuck, help them, please. There's one of me. There's about 34 of you today. Check on your neighbor. See where they got stuck, or make sure you guys have the same answers. Ashlyn, oh, never mind. I gotta catch up to you guys. Somebody asked me why they have very similar numbers to the last problem. I don't know why. Okay, any questions on that part? Okay, Ashlyn, back to you. What do I do with this y equals -2? Yes, I would specifically put it into the isolated one. It's going to save you time. This looks like a lot of minuses and stuff happening. So ordered operation says to multiply first and then to add. So my ordered pair is -2, 0. I think it's important for you to practice a few on your own so you can let these steps kind of marinate and sink in and make sense. So I'm passing out the worksheet. I'll give you 5 minutes or so. We've done number 1 on the front. We've done number 7 on the front. So just write the answers in there. Oh, I wrote it backwards. The x is 0. Sorry about that. The x is 0. The y is -2. Thank you. Okay. So again, we did number 1. Put your order here in for number 1. We did number 7. Make sure you're on the side that says substitution. And I'll start my timer. I would like you to get a couple done. Oops, sorry, people who are watching this at home. We talked about opposite coefficient. Okay, add your equation. Step number 1, create or notice opposite coefficients. Sometimes we're just noticing. I noticed that the 2 and the -2 are opposites. Like I said, you're going to love this step. Add your equations together. David, what's -2x plus 2x? 0 x's. This is what elimination does. It eliminates one of your variables on step number 2 in a really fast manner. Brianna, what's 6y plus 2y? Yes. Bring down the equal sign. Devin, what's 28 minus 4?
24.
Yes. Look how fast that part was. So substitution is fast at the end. This one is fast at the very beginning. Ethan, what do you think we would do now? Because we got to find out why. Yes. I'm just going to put solve because I think it's most of the time you're dividing. I don't know if it's always dividing. So we do need to continue to solve. Wasn't that fast? I love that. So step number 1, create or notice opposite coefficients. Step number 2, add the equations together. One of them is going to be eliminated, either the x's or the y's. Step number 3, solve. And then from here, it's just like your substitution steps. So on step 4, use the answer from step number 3. And we don't have an isolated equation. So you can plug it into any equation that you want. I usually try to find one that has smaller numbers or more positive numbers. Because it doesn't matter. It could be that top equation or the bottom equation. Use answer from step 3. Plug in to either equation. And solve. So if I'm going to try step number 4, I'm going to choose this bottom equation because it's positive here and a positive here and the negative is a small number. This is where the work comes in though. I've got 2x plus 2 instead of y. I'll put my 3. You've got to multiply, subtract, divide. So this is the lengthy part of elimination. The beginning is really fun and dramatic. Okay, once you're done with this one, try number 1, 3, or 4. I'm going to wait a minute or two before I show you the ones at the bottom. The ones at the bottom do not have opposite coefficients, so I need to show you how to create them. I'm just not going to do it yet. So you can try a few more of these on your own. Remember, some of you are ready to see those bottom ones where they don't have opposite coefficients. So I'm going to do 2. I'll do 6, and I'm just going to start them out so you can see how to get the opposite coefficients, because from there, I think you could finish it. And I'm really hoping that for most of you, this is truly a review. If it's not, you may have to go back and watch the videos again. I had a professor in college. It was a very difficult class for me. And he would record all of his lessons, and he would put them in the library. And every day after I left his class, I would go and watch it again and fill in my notes a little bit better and then try the homework. It was the only way to do well in his class. It's the most failed class in Utah State still, I've heard. Anatomy and physiology. So sometimes, if it's a struggle, you put in the extra work. I would watch those videos twice. I would fill in the notes that I'd missed, and then I would try my homework. Okay, you're going to notice there's not opposite coefficients. -2 and 5 aren't even close to being opposite, and -3 and 9 are not opposite. So you get to decide which one you want to make opposite. There's one that's easier. In order to get 2 and 5 to be opposite, I have to change both of them. But can you see how I would make this a -9? So you get to think in your head, what can I multiply this equation by to make this opposite? 3. This really bugged some people in my last class. Where did the 3 come from? My brain. Came from my brain. I'm going to create opposite coefficients. I'm going to write the answer kind of down below, though. And then I'm on track. Then I can add the 2 equations together and solve like we did on the other one. So do I need to clarify where the 3 came from? Does anyone still not like that I just put it up there and distributed it? Came out of my brain. Okay, but number 4, neither one of them. They're not even multiples of each other. 3 and 4, the only thing I can make a common factor is to multiply them together. 2 and 3, the only way I can make a common factor is to multiply them together. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Allie, what's a factor with 3 and 4? Or a multiple, excuse me. 12. How do I make this into a 12? What do I multiply it by? That's 3. If I make that one a 12, this one has to be a -12. I'm creating opposite coefficients. Josh, what do I need to multiply a 3 by to make it a -12? -4.
So you have a video on elimination.
I'm currently making it. This is it. You're in the video. Okay, so I distribute it through, and I'm going to write it. It's going to be kind of confusing. I might write it down below. So 12x minus 6y equals -66. Now I'm going to distribute this one through. I write it down below. -12x plus 12y equals 24. And then I'm ready to add them together. So the first thing I will do at the beginning of class tomorrow is to review this concept. Because for those of you who this was not a review, this is a lot to cover in 2 minutes. Okay? So at the beginning of class tomorrow, I will go over one of each of these again, where you're changing one equation, where you're changing 2 equations. I'll make sure we have an example in our notebooks. Yeah.
Why do you have to plug into the green equation at the bottom? Or can you plug into it?
You can plug it into the top one. In fact, I would suggest it because the numbers are smaller. area. You have 4 options. Okay, I'm gonna stop my recording and go save it. If you are more comfortable with substitution, do the substitution side. If you want to practice more of elimination, make sure the top 4 eliminations are done. And like I said, we can work on this a little bit more tomorrow. Huh?
So they would have to do one side.
No, do the substitution side and the top 4 of elimination.
Route number 8.